Welcome everybody. It's really nice for me to be here today because I'll be talking to you about something which has been instrumental in my own teaching for many, many years. So let's get started. And the first thing is just trying to pull down what is a project. Tom Hutchinson, an OUP author who's used projects extensively, tells us that it's an extended piece of work on a topic and where the content and the presentation is determined by the learners. I focus very much on the idea that it's about topics, that it's over a period of time, and that the learners have quite significant agency in a piece of project work. The first project I did with my own students went beyond the classroom, but not too far beyond the classroom. That is the cathedral in the background, and it was right next to my students. And one day when I discovered they actually knew very, very little about their own cathedral, then I stopped the class there and then and took them down, and we took a tour of the cathedral, and the idea was born. Okay, this is the project. I'm going to share out different aspects of the cathedral, and my students are going to prepare their little mini presentation as guides to each other as we walk around the cathedral. Another project that was suggested itself almost immediately was getting them to describe regional dishes. We were working in a school of tourism, and there's quite a lot of complex language between describing things like this, and I thought, okay, here's another good project. A third was getting them to actually create and present an interactive museum. Back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, museums in Spain broadly were come in and look at things in glass cases. And museums in Britain at the time had gone interactive, where you actually lived out some sort of experience connected to the topic of the museum. We took part in activities. And I turned this into a project for my second year students. Another was just do a weather forecast. Record it and put it onto a place where tourists could access the weather forecast. Other projects included theme park design, and one that I particularly liked was when my students were told to go out in their groups and to find out what provision existed in Asturias at that particular moment in time for disabled tourists.
Hi everyone, wonderful to see you all, and thank you so much for connecting. Let's start with what is scaffolding. Here's a nice little quote. It refers to a variety of instructional techniques used to move students progressively towards stronger understanding and ultimately greater independence in the learning process. Some people, and I am not one of them, understand this drawing. This is what a scaffolding is, literally. You're giving students support while they begin learning a new topic, and after they feel confident about it, you take the scaffolding away. For me, I understand this image a lot better, giving a helping hand. So you give students a helping hand when they need it, and when you realize that they've learned the skills well enough that they can learn on their own, you take the hand away and they fly by themselves. So here are some more ideas. Here are some ways to scaffold. And in this image is a scaffold in itself. A scaffolding technique that's very easy to use is you print out images and then either a term or a definition. You cut them in half and give the images and these terms to each pair of students. The students work collaboratively and they match the image with the term. And so they put them together and they understand whenever we put image with text, we double the learning. And this is double here because I'm showing you other ways to scaffold. Through brainstorming, through making an abstract concrete, which is exactly what I'm doing here, visual aids, establishing shared goals, concept maps, simplifying language, giving them synonyms for academic terms. Communicating goals is very similar to establishing shared goals, and extracting and teaching academic language.
There are some very important social norms that we should be teaching children very, very early on. Something like saying please, that magic word please. If we teach children please and thank you, then we've got over many hurdles already. So what we're going to look at is this idea, okay? Now, Fatiha Ghasabi, she states that a particular language points to the culture of a particular social group. And learning a language, therefore, is not only learning the alphabet, the meaning, the grammar rules, and the arrangement of words, but it is also learning the behavior of the society and its cultural customs. So there's all these things that we can teach the children very early on, yeah? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at child culture and the target culture, so English language speaking culture and international culture. So do we know what number one is? Who is number one? Who are they? Okay, it's Gru, Margot, Edith and Agnes, and the children in our class would know that. Yeah, and so that's part of child culture. It's part of the target culture because of course the English speaking culture, and also international culture because everybody knows who they are. And then there's Justin Timberlake, yeah, and football. I mean, football was actually invented by England, and yet it's so much bigger in the rest of the world, isn't it? Yeah. And number 4, look at these two down at the bottom. Now, for our children, of course, the 3 kings are big. Yeah, they are the people who bring most of their gifts. But most children will know who Father Christmas is. And if they're in an English class, they'll know that, who Rudolph is. And the final thing, number 5, because of the film, yeah, the emoji film, and because of our international culture, emojis are very much part of the children's world. And so we can look at being happy, sad, angry, with emojis. And so there's all these things that are part of the children's world which we can bring into our primary classroom.
We're going to look at a series of different projects that I saw during classroom observations in Safa schools and Claret in Seville. So here, this was the first one I wanted to talk to you about, an All About Me project. And what they did was, my name is, and as you can see on the left-hand side, we've got the birthday and the favorite animal and the favorite color. So again, this idea that the child is building from his or her own personal experience. The other one that they did was, I saw another classroom where the kids were doing the life cycle of a bird. And in this case, it was fantastic because she had the whole class dressed up as birds. They all had their bird masks that they'd made themselves on a previous day. Then she went through the story of the life cycle of the bird and how they come from the eggs and how they grow up and da. She put the cards around the room, and then the whole flock of birds went through the life cycle, dramatizing it at each station. So again, a nice way to work on science associated with a lesson in the book and sort of extending your topic into a project. It's true. Pupils do speak Spanish when they're coloring. Ways we can get around that: you can put some music on in the background. If you're singing with them and they're learning the songs, they will eventually start picking up on more English. You really can't be expecting them to sort of sit and share all the time in English. So we have to encourage them, we have to provide them with lots of sort of auditory support, but we also have to be realistic, I think. Fantastic. Good. Okay, well, I hope you can try them. We are out of time, so if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us. We hope to see you another day at another webinar. On my webpage, you can find a link to my professional Facebook page and my email if you need anything specific. Good job, guys. We did it.
Well, thank you very much. This is the end of the first webinar day of the season. And thank you. And I hope I'll see you probably next year via webinar. So thank you very much. Bye-bye, Nina.
Okay.
Bye-bye, teachers. See you soon.
Bye. See you, everyone.